So let's talk about the importance of word stress and reduction in the English language. I will help you to see why it's so important because English is a stress time language, not a syllable time language. So stress time means we have ups and downs in English, we have irregular patterns, and also we stress some words or we go up, and also there are some words that we do not stress. So I'm going to help you to see some examples, and also we're going to talk about sentence stress. Many students don't understand the concept of sentence stress because you weren't taught or you might have forgotten. So word stress and reduction. So in English, not all syllables are created equal, and I will show you an example of what I mean by that. But some syllables will be higher in pitch, longer in duration, and also a little bit louder than the unstressed syllables surrounding it. So let me give you some examples. And what we want to do is make sure we have the correct number of sounds. That's always important. If we leave one syllable or sound out, it can sound like another word, or we won't know what word you're trying to say. And we have to make sure that the stress is correct. So even if you have the correct pronunciation of each letter or group of letters, if your stress is off or completely wrong, that is what interferes with understanding. So it may not be your pronunciation, it might be your stress that is the problem. So what do I mean by not all syllables are created equal? Let's look at these two examples here. I have cabbage. So the little dot means we stress or our voice goes up on that first sound or syllable. Cabbage, cabbage. And you notice that the length is also a little bit longer on that first syllable or sound. Cabbage, cabbage. It's not cabbage, cabbage. It's cabbage. So it's a little bit longer in duration. But look at the next example of banana. So the second syllable or sound is where we have the stress or we go up. Banana, banana. And it's very quick. It's shorter in duration than the first syllable in cabbage. So you see the difference. If we look at these three words here on the side, I think these are great examples of how the stress can move. It can be on any syllable in the English language. That's why we have the ups and downs in English. So in the first example, we have two sounds. We always have to make sure we have the right number of sounds or syllables. And the stress is on the first one. So here we have the stress on the first sound, photo. You hear that? Photo. We go up on the first syllable. The next one has three sounds or three syllables, so we've divided them up here. And the stress is also on the first sound or syllable. So it's pronounced photograph, photograph. So the stress is on the first sound, we go up. The next word, students often mispronounce this one. So we have four syllables or sounds. But what do you notice? We've moved the stress to the second syllable or sound. So it is correctly pronounced photographer, photographer. It is not correct to say photographer, photographer, as if the stress is on the first sound. Photographer. And so if your stress is not correct, it causes the listener to think for a moment. What did they say? I thought they might be saying photographer, but they said photographer. Is it the same thing? Do they have another word in mind? So when you cause your listener to think, that is an issue. If you do that often, and that is what causes hesitancy in a response because the listener is thinking to, what you possibly could say. Now, sentence stress, and this is something that students often are not either taught or they don't remember. Why is sentence stress important? So we just talked about word stress, but the entire sentence has a stress. And so your language might be very different than English in terms of the stress or the rhythm. So it could be syllable timed where it's very regular. The stress is very predictable. Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese is a syllable timed language, for example. It is not a stress timed. Hindi, Punjabi, also syllable timed. So the rhythm is a little bit different. But this is something interesting that I'm going to show you here. And we're going to start here where it says in English, we stress some words and we don't stress other sounds or words. So let's look at the instructions. So they are very important. I'm going to read them, and then we're going to go through this exercise together. So it says, read each sentence and notice that it takes the same amount of time to say them all. Try clapping your hands as you say each sentence. It will take 3 beats to say all 3 sentences. Now you might be saying, how can that be? How can it take the same amount of time to say all 4 of these sentences? Well, you notice the first one is shorter and the last one is longer, but you're telling me it's going to take me the same amount of time. And it will, and why is that? Because in English, we don't spend the same amount of time on each syllable or sound. That's how we get the ups and downs. Now, let's read each sentence, and I'm going to clap my hands to keep that 3-second beat because it's supposed to be said in 3 beats or 3 seconds, right? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to keep the time for us so you can see if we can do this. So we have a number at the end of the sentence, and that represents the number of syllables or sounds. So if the first one has 3 and the last one has 8, how can it still take me 8 seconds? And the reason is we don't spend the same amount of time because certain stresses in English are not equal. Let's go. Let's see if we can do it. Say all 3 in 3 beats or 3 seconds. Ready? I'm going to keep the time. Ready. Cows eat grass. The cows eat the grass. The cows are eating the grass. The cows have been eating the grass. Wow. 3 seconds, all the sentences. So that is sentence stress. So if you could really understand English, the stress involved in speaking English, and what word stress is, this would really help your pronunciation, the flow of your conversations, and also be able to listen to the music of English compared to your native language. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. See you next time.